Hillary Clinton is back with her trademark cackle, and this time she's speaking out, well, I would say in favor of increased digital censorship. Listen.
There must be a reckoning by the tech companies for the role that they play in undermining the information ecosystem that is absolutely essential for the functioning of any democracy. If you get to a point, and we are, if not there, very close to it, where you cannot have agreement on facts, on evidence, on truth, how does a democracy make decisions? And what we've got in the tech world on social media platforms is an algorithm-driven conspiracy rabbit hole that people are enticed to go down and then addicted, because it is like watching constant car crashes. You cannot turn away. And as someone who has been accused of practically everything you could possibly imagine, I know how powerful this is.
I've been accused of practically everything. Wow. Wow is all I can say. Well, this requires a little bit of translation because Hillary is making a sort of an argument here. And her argument is sort of based on three parts. The first part is this, and this is its premise. We must be able to agree on facts, evidence, and truth for democracy to work. She goes, we're almost at the point where we can't agree. And she goes, since we must agree, these digital platforms are remiss in not enforcing that agreement. They have these algorithms that are sort of profit-driven, and they're allowing these rabbit holes and conspiracies to flourish. And then later on, this is not in the clip, but she goes on to say that she wants the government to step in, not to defend free speech, to pressure the digital companies to undermine free speech more. In other words, to have, I guess, some system for making sure that we agree. Now, if you think about what she's saying, she is basically speaking the sound of despotism, because in no institution in American life at all is there this kind of enforced agreement. Think of, for example, a legal trial. Can you imagine if the judge said at the beginning, before we get any further, I want to make sure there's complete agreement on the facts, the evidence, and the truth. In other words, I don't even accept the legitimacy that there are two sides to the case. Or imagine in an academic situation if a professor were to say, before we even start with the discussion of Hamlet, I want to make sure that everybody agrees on the facts, the evidence, and the truth. In other words, there is no room for competing interpretations. What? Try to imagine if we go through American history, if you impose, let's call it the Hillary standard, how American politics would grind to a halt, because I can't think of one time in American history, let alone the most contested moments of American history, when there was this kind of agreement. So according to her, America's never been a democracy. Why? Because democracy supposedly requires agreement on A, facts, B, evidence, and C, truth. So let's start with the argument between Jefferson and Hamilton over whether the Constitution permits a national bank. They didn't agree. In fact, they didn't agree on whether the Constitution says one thing or the other. Basically, Jefferson said there's no authority in the Constitution to have a national bank. And Hamilton said, yes, there is. So they disagreed about a simple fact. What does the Constitution permit? They obviously disagreed about evidence because they reasoned a different way. Hamilton didn't say, by the way, that the Constitution explicitly permits a bank, but he said that there was implied authority, that since the government has powers to do certain things, this was part of those powers. They didn't agree on evidence. They didn't agree on facts. They didn't agree on truth. Now turn to the Lincoln-Douglas debates. Lincoln accused Douglas of being pro-slavery. Douglas said he wasn't. Douglas basically said, I'm for choice. I'm for letting each community decide for itself. And Lincoln basically said, that is the most pro-slavery position that you can take as a Northern Democrat. Now, was Douglas pro-slavery? Lincoln and Douglas did not agree on the facts. They did not agree on the evidence. They did not agree on the truth. And this is the case throughout American history. This is the case with Reagan and missile defenses. The left goes, your missile defenses won't work. Reagan goes, yes, they will. They disagreed on the facts. Second, they disagreed on evidence. They disagreed on what a missile defense was supposed to do. The left goes, you can't stop every Soviet missile. Reagan goes, I don't have to stop every Soviet missile. We're worried about a first strike that would wipe out all our ICBMs. If we can stop enough Soviet missiles, that will do the job. Deterrence is achieved. So they disagree on facts, they disagree on evidence, and they disagree on truth. And that's true if you come all the way to January 6th. January 6th was an insurrection. Define insurrection. An insurrection is an effort to overthrow the government. The last insurrection we had was essentially the attack on Fort Sumter. And there's no doubt that there was an effort to divide, to decapitate the U.S. government. Where's that? How does that compare to what we saw on January 6th? How does it meet the definition of an insurrection, or even a riot, or even a coup? Have the people who use that word coup ever seen a coup? Well, when Pinochet came to power in Chile, that was a coup. But that was a military operation. People died. And by the way, Pinochet became the dictator. That's what a coup is. Where was the coup in January 6th? Guys milling around the Capitol for, 30 minutes and then they're gone? Taking with them, Nancy Pelosi's desk? I don't even think they took the desk out. So that wasn't a coup. So we disagree on facts, we disagree on evidence, we disagree on truth, and that is what democracy means. So the remarkable thing is you've got the presidential candidate of the Democratic Party who keeps and a party named after democracy. We're the Democratic Party. And yet you're calling for what? Intellectual uniformity? Imposed conformity? Forced agreement? On what? On bogus facts? On fallacious evidence? You essentially want the right to proclaim what is true and declare people who say the opposite or who disagree with you as being not only wrong, you want to kick them off the platform. You in effect want to silence them. Hillary, in a sense, along with Obama, this was the turning point for the Democratic Party. This is when the Democratic Party decided to sort of turn in this gangsterized, corrupt, and tyrannical direction. And we're living with the fruits of it now. Biden is just kind of the latest bumbling character on the scene. But what makes Biden so dangerous is that he is in the ugly, corrupt tradition of his two predecessors, Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton.